Today we will talk about XRP, XLM, and HBAR, especially with how Ripple and Hedera have been involved in a US CBDC project called Project New Dawn with a company called MTech and Accenture, which I will talk about a lot more here. That is because of some announcements with Australia wanting to prioritize a wholesale CBDC over retail. And it's interesting because I've been talking about stablecoins a lot, and specifically how RLUSD could end up as a wholesale stablecoin. I have talked quite a bit about Australia and its connections into Ripple and Stellar in my content I put out there on APFII and Stellar. So we have proof from 2022 that Novati was planning on issuing an AUDC on the XRPL. Before that, they announced that they were also issuing it on Stellar. And just now, the AUDC will be on Hedera as well. Here is a bit more on Novati's ADD that calls out connections to Ripple and Stellar.
It's based around licenses. We see that as the core bit of infrastructure. And as I said before, we've got licenses in Australia and a number of overseas countries, and in fact are applying for more licenses all the time. So a true competitive advantage is having licenses, which take a long time to get, and not every company can get them. And then on those licenses, we have partnerships with Alipay, WeChat Pay, China Union Pay, Ripple, Stellar, Visa, MasterCard, many global companies. So by having the licenses, the partnerships and technology, we can build a sustainable competitive advantage.
Here is a bit more information on the interconnections. So we are talking about Ripple and Stellar working on Australia's stablecoin with Novati and the Reserve Bank of Australia. AUDC and AUDD are indeed the exact same, with a name change from AUDC to AUDD. AUDD is deployed on multiple networks, including XRPL, Stellar, and Ethereum as well. Now it will end up on Hedera. It is fully backed 1-to-1 by Australian dollars held in accounts or government-backed instruments such as T-bills and notes.
Lovely to have you here. Now, Novati has recently announced 2 deals around your stablecoin services. Talk us through it.
We've been able to announce partnerships with both Stellar and Ripple, 2 of the major cross-border blockchain networks, both based out of Silicon Valley and both with very high market capitalizations relatively. Ripple we've done a lot of work with in the past for cross-border payments, and Stellar we had started on a blockchain program with them a number of years ago, but now we're really bringing it to life. So we're building a multi-chain stablecoin service, initially on both the Ripple and Stellar chains. And in fact, what's a great thing is both Ripple and Stellar are largely funding the development work and even some of the marketing work that we do to get our stablecoin service out. So the stablecoin will be dollar for dollar backed Australian dollar stablecoin. So we are a licensed company. We'll be running our funds in trust accounts, and then we've got an Australian dollar stablecoin named AUDC, somewhat in line with the nomenclature of the US stablecoin USDC.
I noticed, I think a couple of weeks ago, we were just talking about the role of digital assets with.
And as of September of 2024, it will now end up on Hedera as well. And it's extremely interesting for the things that I talk about, because a lot of the things that I have found interest in all tie back into IBM, which I talked a lot about in the APFII content. And it seems as if the IBM infrastructure which is primarily Hyperledger here, it connects a lot of the networks that are involved in these institutional projects and applications. So for instance, we have clear connections into Ripple, Hedera, and Stellar as well. It also calls out Accenture, which will become important in our topic here. And it is also interesting because I have an idea that Stellar and Ripple are essentially two arms of the same entity because of their intertwined history. And because we are talking about Ripple and its RLUSD quite possibly ending up as a wholesale stablecoin, that lines up extremely well with what I have speculated on, where Ripple is more about the wholesale, large-scale institutional applications, and Stellar is more about the retail-facing end of that. However, they are connecting into the same value within that system overall. With the Monetary Authority of Singapore and Australia FinTech Bridge, we could soon see an interlinking of faster payment systems. And it is not a coincidence that Ripple, Stellar, and Hedera are active in each of those countries. You also have more direct ties in between Ripple and Hedera because they are founding members of the MiCA Crypto Alliance, which is a collaborative initiative established by the DLT Science Foundation to coordinate and enhance compliance with the EU markets in crypto assets regulation. And Hedera has also joined the Institute of International Finance, which is a collection of 450 companies in 70 countries. And it includes entities such as the IMF and BlackRock. The IIF is a global association that connects leading financial institutions. And in all of the different regions of the world, it has a ton of huge institutions involved. Ripple has had deep connections into Australia for quite a while now, and Australian regulators suggest that the ILP could create an internet of value, which could turn Australia into an automated clockwork.
Project that I run is what I call Lex Automagica, which is the tech stack that will automate our legal processes and run our society like clockwork. And so that's the topic of my research. It's the topic of the two new courses that I've had approved as part of the master's program at the School of Law. Law is not complicated at a certain level, right? It deals with who are the legal identities that the law recognises? What are the legal things that the law recognises existing? What's the relationship between people and the things? And there's a dispute resolution at the heart of it. When you look at the blockchain smart contract space, there's projects doing all of those things. There are identity projects, there are tokenization projects, there are smart contract projects, and there are dispute resolution projects. What we're doing is saying all of this can be brought together in order to make an enormous number of problems go away.
Here we will turn to talk about Ripple, Hedera, MTech, and Accenture because of their co-involvement in a CBDC platform. And it is an interesting application in the Australian topic here because Ripple, Hedera, and Stellar are all involved in CBDCs. So Accenture has just invested in MTech, which is a CBDC platform used by 5 central banks. In Project New Dawn, you have involvement with MTech, IBM, the Federal Reserve of New York, and NYU, and its goal is to create a digital cash infrastructure with CBDCs directly filling the inclusion gap created by the current financial system. And the main collaborators are Hedera, Microsoft, and MTech. It's interesting that they talk about financial inclusion because in the APFII content, The main purpose of APFII, from what they publicly stated, was they were wanting to increase the financial inclusion in the Asian Pacific area. And that was heavily involving Stellar and the AUD. And if you look at the publication from the Reserve Bank of Australia put out in September of 2024, it talks about the things like offline capabilities, which I have talked about a lot in terms of what XRP do. And I've also talked about applications of that with HBAR and XLM and things that are a Stellar L2, such as Velo and SHX. And it refers to a wholesale CBDC, which it appears as if the RLUSD on XRPL could end up as just that. Here is how Ripple is taking over Australia's payment systems with cross-border payments, along with the Reserve Bank of Australia and Novati's stablecoins. Yes, central banks have access to use XRP.
Hello, Melissa Darmwan for the Finance News Network. Joining me from Novati Group is CEO Peter Cook. Peter, welcome back.
Good morning, Mel and FinNews Network.
A few weeks ago, Novati announced a partnership with Google Pay and Samsung Pay, building on an existing list of Tier 1 global partnerships. This week, the company announced a partnership with Ripple. Tell us a bit more about that.
Ripple really is a very innovative global network. Its cryptocurrency or digital asset is called XRP, and it is the third largest of the cryptocurrencies, with actually a market cap, I think at the moment, of about US 27 billion. But our work with Ripple is around cross-border payments and integrating into their network, which has about 300 banks and financial services companies that use the Ripple network for very fast, accurate transactions, cross-border payments. So from Novati's point of view, we can be a major partner of Ripple's in Australia for both sending funds from Australia to, initially Southeast Asia, but then globally, and on the near-term roadmap for bringing funds into Australia and settling out through the new payments platform for instant payments. So essentially, for our cross-border payments division, we have now partnered with one of the major networks in the world.
And exactly what is Novati seeking to achieve with this partnership with Ripple, as opposed to the other partnerships you announced a few weeks ago?
This partnership is very much about building one of the pillars, which is our cross-border payments. If you look at, say, Google Pay, Samsung Pay, or even our Visa issuing partnership from late last year, that's really all about building our card issuing. So at the moment, we've got we're building a payment service provider business or payments banking business, which is issuing of cards. It is accepting payments for merchants and businesses. It's doing subscription billing, and it's doing cross-border payments. So we have a hypothesis that as COVID has driven this acceleration of cashless and digital payments, that there are many services that consumers and businesses need, and we're able to help in multiple ways. In terms of these partnerships, what it's really showing is that as a public listed company with licenses, technology and clients, we can peer up with many of these global brands and accelerate the deployment of these services.